Hi guys, welcome back to another Hugh Jeffreys video. In this video, we're going to be transforming this stock rose gold iPhone 7 into a unique purple iPhone 7. This is a color which Apple never sold the device in. I purchased this purple housing well over a year ago. It contains no parts whatsoever, so we'll need to completely disassemble our iPhone and transplant it into this new housing. The phone in its current state is working fine. However, the battery is needing a replacement, displaying a message that the battery health has significantly degraded. To begin, I'm going to remove the two pentalobe screws from the bottom of the device. However, here we encounter our first issue. One of the screws is spinning but not coming out. I'll use a suction cup to pull up on the display. This should apply some pressure to the screw, hopefully giving it some grip and allow it to come out. As it turns out, the screw wasn't even holding the display in place and was just spinning freely. So therefore, I could proceed in removing the display. Once we've got it open, I'm going to remove that screw that was initially stuck, and then I can disconnect all of the flex cables for the front LCD. I'll need to remove two brackets to get access to those cables, and then use a plastic spudger to disconnect them. With the display removed, we can get a closer look at the internals. Two things I noticed instantly is the lack of a water-resistant seal and battery removal tabs, so it's clear someone's been inside for some reason. The battery itself was only held in place with double-sided adhesive, although it is the original battery to the phone, so some other work must have been done. But I'm going to proceed by disassembling this phone further. With the rear camera removed, it's time to get the Wi-Fi antenna out of this phone so we can get this logic board out of place. It is fastened by several screws, flex cables, and the SIM eject pin. After all have been detached, the logic board can freely be removed. With it removed, I can relocate up to the top portion of the phone where I'm going to need to remove a few more antennas. Underneath is this bracket which holds in place the LED flash and microphone. I'll need to carefully pry up on these and remove the mesh grill from the little microphone hole. We'll need to transfer that to our new housing. Next to come out is our volume and power button assembly. This cable is also attached to the LED flash and microphone. I'm going to need to unadhere the cable and remove any of the screws fastening everything in place. With that out of the way, I can move to the lower portion of the phone where I can remove the charging port, Taptic engine, and speaker assembly. Compared to newer iPhones I've worked on, this one contains a similar number of screws, but more of those screws are Phillips head, meaning I don't have to change my screwdriver as often. With all of the screws removed for the charging port assembly, it's time to pull it out of place. While removing the flex cable, I'll also need to remove the mesh grills and lightning ports around. In my case, one of the grills came out with the flex cable removal, so I only had to retrieve the other from the housing. To remove the charging ports around, I used a spudger to simply push it out of the frame. With that, we're down to the really fine stuff. There's only a few more brackets and things we'll need to remove. These ones right here are responsible for holding in the front display. I'll also need to get our retaining bracket and metal spring from the back of the power and volume buttons. This really fine work requires some precision and patience with a pair of tweezers and a metal prying tool. With these removed, we've got our entire iPhone 7 disassembled. It's now time to reassemble everything in our purple housing. Other than the housing itself, it also came with a replacement SIM tray and matching purple buttons. There was a slight manufacturing defect to this mute switch. As you can see, there's this extra piece on top, but luckily I was able to just snap it right off. I'll also need to install some rubber gaskets onto our volume and power buttons. This helps with water and dust resistance. These can be transferred from our old buttons or some new replacement ones. This is the end result with those black O-rings installed on each peg of each button. I can proceed by installing all of the buttons back into our new housing. Next up, it's time to prepare our mute switch. This is fastened into this little assembly piece that's connected to the flex cable. I'll need to make sure it's seated correctly and to fasten the metal tabs holding it in place. I can then go ahead and install the retaining clips and metal springs onto the volume and power buttons. This complex button assembly is actually easier to work with than previous models. Any iPhone 7 or newer contain this style of button. Next up, I'll transfer the SIM eject pin over to our new housing from our old one. Once that's in place, I can attach the mesh grill for our microphone and its retaining adhesive on top. Then I can attach the power and volume button flex cable, securing it into place with its several Phillips head screws. Whilst installing the bracket for the LED flash, it's important that the flash and microphone are properly aligned. Proceeding, I can install these 3 brackets. These are responsible for holding on the front display panel. It is important that these are orientated in the correct position to avoid any issues later on when we go to attach the display. After installing the last antenna up top, we can proceed to the lower portion of our iPhone 7 where I can install the mesh grills, charging port surround, and the charging port flex cable itself, securing it all down into place with its many Phillips head screws. Next to go in is the Taptic engine, which connects to a spot where the headphone jack should be. There's also a plastic retaining clip which screws over top. After I fasten our speaker back into position, we can reinstall our logic board back into this iPhone. Carefully routing it around all of the cables, I can then connect those cables back onto our logic board. Screwing the logic board down into place, this custom purple iPhone 7 is really taking shape. I'll reinstall the rear-facing camera and its retaining bracket. Next to go in is the Wi-Fi antenna up top. After installing this bracket over the flex cable, I can test out the phone by attaching its display panel and original battery. Powering it up, you can see the phone is not only still working, but our replacement buttons on the side are also functioning correctly. With that, I can install the new water-resistant seal. This was missing from our phone beforehand. Whilst I'm not sure what was done to the device, they definitely didn't finish it off quite right. With the seal installed, I can reattach the display panel and prep our battery for installation. This is a new battery which I've had in storage for about 2 years now. After applying the adhesive, I can install it into the phone, pressing it down into place. I then proceeded by installing one of the display brackets and testing out the device. As you can see, it's now boot looping. As it turns out, this battery is completely dead. Whilst I'm not an expert on lithium-ion batteries, I know that if you leave them flat for too long, they can have troubles coming back and charging up properly. This one right here, even trying to charge it through an adapter, it still would not come back to life. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to replace this battery I've just installed because it doesn't work. Luckily, I had another one, so I'm going to use it instead. Let this be a lesson not only to ensure that your batteries in storage remain charged, but that you test fit everything before sticking it down with adhesive. Luckily though, this battery I did test and it works, so I'm going to use it instead. Pressing it down into place, you can see the phone is running off of its own power. In the battery health, you can see that it is unable to read the battery health percentage. I thought this might be due to some form of serialization or pairing with the device. So using the old battery, I'm going to copy its serial number to the battery installed in the phone. I did this using the JC Pro 1000S and a few adapters. As you can see here, I was able to transfer the serial number across. I tested out the phone once again, but unfortunately was getting the same error message. This may just be an issue with the control chips on our replacement battery, rather than some of the software pairing we've seen in newer iPhones. After cleaning the insides of the phone, I'm going to remove the protective film on our water-resistant seal and seat our display panel into our new purple housing. After that, the only thing left to do is to remove the gasket going around the old SIM card tray and transfer it to our new one. This will help dust and water stay out of our iPhone 7. After installing it into the phone and fastening the 2 pentalobe screws in the bottom of the phone, I can remove the protective film over the Apple logo on the back, and we're done. So this is it, a custom 128GB purple iPhone 7. Whilst looking unique, I think this colour looks fantastic on the iPhone 7. I previously built a purple iPhone 6 with a black display. Leave a comment, what colour do you like best? Black and purple or white and purple? This phone is an excellent addition to my collection of custom devices I've built that include iPhones, Samsungs and a few game consoles. And on that note, this has been a Hugh Jeffreys video. If you like what you saw, hit that subscribe button and consider checking out the custom tech playlist for more videos just like this one. And if you're looking for any tips or what tools I use to repair devices, be sure to check out my website, link for which is down in the description. That's all for this video, and I'll catch you guys next time.